Radio Spätkauf. Berlin News in English.
It's Saturday, June 15th, 2025. This is Radio Spätkauf, Berlin's news podcast, recording live at Atelier Gardens as part of Doxumentale. Hello to everyone listening to the podcast. Thank you to especially the wonderful people that have joined us live here today. Give yourselves a round of applause.
Coming up on today's show, Berlin is about to lose its publicly funded Nextbike system. We'll explain why and what it says about the city's deflating civic status. Also, we'll meet the artistic director of the Doxumentale Film Festival and explain, we'll hear all about why they're adding an X to their name. And a fellow podcaster will tell us about how beauty parlours are places of feminist empowerment. That's all coming up.
Joel, it is, I speak for everyone listening at home, lovely to have your voice back on the show.
Well, that's very nice of you to say, Dan. And to anyone who hasn't actually ever heard my voice on the show since I've been away for so long, I was one of the founders of this podcast, but then decided to become a part-time Berliner and spend half of my year traveling and filming little videos.
You want to tell us a little bit about what you've been doing the last 6 months?
Well, I went to South America and I filmed some little, I think documentaries is a bit much because we're talking about like 5 to 12 and a half minute films. So I don't know if there's a minimum length of a documentary. Anyway, I've been filming little documentaries in South America and brushing up on my video skills. Previously, I was, of course, here doing podcasting, and it's been fantastic to learn how to get people to tell their stories into camera and to be able to go to places and not just enjoy the environment, but also be able to find stories there and share those stories around the world. And that's exactly what I want to keep doing, and I'll be heading off again sometime soon. So
no, but there is still sound in the documentaries, right? It's not video only, right?
That's correct. There is still sound in the documentary.
I feel like there's like there's like the world is forcing all documentaries to be video now. I mean, all podcasts to be video now. I want to tell people like you can just make TV shows and documentaries and talk. It doesn't have to like let us. All right.
Let it just be audio.
Let me be Luddite on my own time.
Anyway, just for a little hook, if any listeners do want to see anything that I have been doing, I have set up a website where all of my videos are listed. It's my name, joeldulroy.com, and you can see all of the little stories from mostly South America that I've been filming on my journeys. Shall we start off, as we do every Radio Spätkauf episode, with a little bit of short news about Berlin?
Short news.
Here we go. Yet another Berlin mayor is trying to create his legacy by bidding to host the Olympic Games.
No, why do we have to do this story? Can we just roll back the version of this we've done every 4 years for the last
12 years? Yes, it happens that frequently. It really is. So this time it's Kai Wegner of the CDU, and he thinks it would be great if Berlin goes for the Games, which makes him at least the third Berlin mayor of the past 4 who have tried this. Even though the citizens actually hate the idea every time that it is suggested. So in 2001, Mayor Klaus Wowereit wanted to go for the Games and had to pull out because the city was broke. Then in 2020, Michael Müller tried to get Berlin to bid for the Games. He wanted to go for the 2036 Games, and his bright idea was that it would be a fantastic anniversary because 100 years before that, Nazi Germany hosted the Olympic Games out of the Olympic Stadium.
He didn't.
And Jesse Owens embarrassed Adolf Hitler by winning while black. And somehow he thought that having a 100th anniversary would be a good idea to remind everyone that Nazi Germany was a thing. Yeah. Anyway.
I mean, did he say that out loud, or we?
Yeah, he said it was the 100th anniversary, and then he said this is a good opportunity to try and like cleanse the legacy,
rebrand it, right?
Yeah, like and to whitewash it.
I mean, I would love if we could just, destroy the Olympiastadion as a start. That thing's horrifying. We can rebuild the Jesse Owens Stadium. I mean, that guy's a hero, but oh well.
Yeah, so this time around, Berlin's working on a joint bid. It was trying to bid with Hamburg, but then that fell apart. We don't know who pulled out of that, so they were going to do a joint bid together. So now they're trying to do a multi-city concept where they're going to get together with Brandenburg, Mecklenburg, Westvorpommern and Schleswig-Holstein. They're all the northeast states, and they're going to try to put together a joint bid for the Olympics. The Die Linke party says that we don't have enough money for warm water in our swimming pools, so how can we host the Olympics? And that is a reference to the fact that the Berliner Bäderbetrieb, the company that runs all the pools, has decided that they can only heat their outdoor pools using solar power now to save costs because of Berlin's big budget cuts that we'll talk about later. And that actually seems to be working, because I have been swimming at Prinsenbad and I haven't noticed that the water's too cold.
I have to say, well, they did up the minimum temperature from their initial offer, I believe. They added a degree or two. They realized they're going to be able to do that. But yeah, it's not that bad.
It's not that bad. I mean, there's one pool that's always cold there, but it's not that one. The one that's
at Prinsenbad?
Yeah, there's one that's nominally heated, and that is still definitely swimmable, I can tell you. Anyway, so
can we get into the weeds a little bit about Prinsenbad? Do you have any insights? Because we've got the exercise pool, the fun family community pool, the kiddie pool, and then the secondary exercise, but mainly for people in their 20s who look good. Like, what is that pool supposed to be? Because it seems like the energy there is sexual.
I'm not sure which one you're talking about, but I'm sure I go to the sexy one.
Well, no. You go do the laps in the lap pool. You're there to exercise.
That
right?
cold pool is insanely freezing. I don't know why anyone jumps in it, and it's like an ice bath. It's just unswimmable. I don't know why people are.
That's
in
so
there.
you swim in the sexy one.
No, I'm in the warm one. I don't have that much resistance. Anyway, so we don't have enough money to heat our pools. How can we host the Olympics? The Greens say something similar. They say that there are 55 Sporthalle in Berlin that are currently closed due to poor maintenance, again because of funding cuts. So how can we suddenly build Olympic stadiums if we can't even fix the little community basketball halls and stadiums that exist? So if Kai Wegner does actually stick to this ridiculous idea, we're going to be heading for a battle of the referendums, because the German Sports Association has decided it's going to launch a referendum in favor of hosting the games to drum up support, and the No Olympia campaign is decided it's going to do the exact opposite. So we'll have two concurrent. I don't think you can actually have two referendum on the same topic, but anyway.
Has it been tried? I mean, I would love to see them both win. I feel like that's like 100% like how this story ends for Berlin. I mean, it's not the dumbest thing that anyone's been calling to spend money on. There's also a call for an Iron Dome for Berlin, right? So, I mean, I guess I would take the Olympics over that.
Well, anyway, an opinion poll found that 56% of Berliners were against the idea of hosting the Olympic Games ever. Maybe we can do a quick poll in this room. Give us a clap if you want the Olympic Games. I mean, you're
that was unanimous.
It's a safe space. If you want to say yes, you can. Like, we'll accept all opinions. There's no
there was, just for because I don't think it got mic'd, there was an almost silent "I don't care," not a clap, but like a gentle tap on the knee. I put that like that translates to 2% of the population, I think.
Yeah, it's not happening.
I feel like the thing is if the poll is let's do something, I would say you're going to get over 50% of Berliners are against it at all times, right? Like, what are the odds that you could get? All right. Next story. One of the peculiar traits of Berliners is their reaction to fire trucks going by past with sirens blazing. Joel, you wrote this.
Okay, I can do this.
Yeah, you keep going.
Has anyone ever seen people on the street sticking fingers in their ears when fire trucks go past?
Yes,
yeah.
it's considered a completely normal thing, even to stick them in your ears when you hear one's coming preemptively before it gets too loud.
Am I wrong in thinking this is unique to Berlin? Because I haven't seen it anywhere else in the world, but have I just not been paying attention?
I assumed it was a German trait.
Could be German. It might happen in other German cities. Is it other German cities do this too? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I have some evidence as to why this happens. So I have two sons, one of which was I hadn't been living here long enough for him to be considered officially German when he was born. My second one, who was issued a German passport after birth, sticks his fingers in his ears when sirens are coming.
The real German.
I think it's just like it's a legal requirement.
Oh, well, there are actually valid reasons to do so. According to a report in the Berliner Zeitung, if you've ever thought that there are a few too many sirens in this city, You are actually right. The number of emergency call-outs has increased 60% since the year 2008, which is way ahead of the population increase and way ahead of the number of actual health emergencies or any other measurable metric. And so this article tried to figure out why, and they say the reason is that in 2006, Berlin started using a new way of deciding which cases are actually emergencies. And this system is called SNAP, the Standardized Notfall-Abfrage-Protokoll. So when people call the number 112, it's the system that they have to go to decide whether to send out a truck or a fire or an ambulance.
Okay, like the triage.
Yeah, and apparently the system basically always decides to send out a truck. And the Emergency Workers Union wants to change this protocol so that it reduces the likelihood of triggering a call out, but they say that there's a fear that this could actually lead to lawsuits because if it suddenly results in a truck or an ambulance not going out and then someone dies, they could get sued. So nothing is going to change, so buy earplugs.
Yeah. I mean, in 6 months, it'll be Palantir running it anyway. So there'll just be an AI scraping the data of every time you call 112. The famous Berlin gay club Schwutz is on the verge of bankruptcy. It has recently fired about 30 staff, I think that's roughly half, saying it can't afford to keep paying them. They've replaced the Garderobe staff. Joel, that's straight German in there. The coat check staff with lockers. The club says they have suffered from a massive decline in attendance. It has been around since
1977. It's been around since.
That's before Berlin was cool, even.
Yeah, and they say that they're the biggest gay club in Germany, but I guess that's not counting Berghain, which isn't really technically a fully gay club. And I remember first going there in the early 2000s when I first moved here, and it was in Mehringdamm, and then it moved to this massive, huge space in Neukölln under a brewery. It's a fantastic space. It's a really well-equipped club. They did a great job fitting it out.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, just people have stopped going there, they say. The attendance numbers have just dropped way off. They say their crowd is getting older. The pandemic changed going out habits, and they just haven't been able to recover. So that's a real shame. Yeah, I haven't heard people talk about it as a place to go out for a long time.
I thought it was still at Mehringdamm.
Yeah. Okay, well, right.
So, I mean, that's news to me. Speaking of lockers, Neukölln has installed lockers where homeless people can leave their possessions as well as charge their phones. The first location has 22 lockers, and it was open on Teupitzer with 4 more to follow. It lets people leave their valuables there, as opposed to having to carry them around on their backs or in trolleys. They are adding several more around Reinickendorf, and there'll be some coming to Friedrichshain as well. They are incredibly expensive. I think 240,000 euro. I do remember a time when bus stations and train stations had lockers in them. And I frankly think this is one of these access issues that could benefit everyone. Like the need to like store things or keep things on the go. Like there's no reason why something this useful should be marketed or sold to us as something that's just for people that that society doesn't like value.
You think there should just be lockers everywhere?
I think that you can install lockers, you can install public restrooms and not add that stigma to using them of saying this is for homeless people. And they've done some good things, like you don't need a smartphone to access them. It does work on like a photographic image, so you know that to me seemed like a weird like privacy issue. But they've made them, people are celebrating this thing. I just think it's almost like
it's a no-brainer, and there should be more of them for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I've got to say, there are times where I've just like gone into my gym just to leave my bag because I don't want to carry it and then come back out and just go back later and get it.
All these cute little running clubs people are going to make new sexual partners. That would be a great. They always need a bag drop.
They do need a bag drop,
right? They need a bag drop, and they have to go to the cafe, and you're like, "Do I have to buy a coffee?" They're like, "Technically, no," and whatever. You're like, "I'm not even here to run, and now I got to buy a coffee." Which I guess you would have had to if you were going on a normal date anyway. The point is, the lockers are great. I don't know why they're so expensive, and they should be available to everyone along with e-bikes. Are we talking about that later?
All right, we are recording at the Doxumentale Film Festival, previously known as Documentale. And our first guest is the film's artistic director, Anna Ramsglotter-Witte. Am I pronouncing all these words right?
Pronunciation of it.
How about, can you help me out with that one?
Ramsglotter-Witte.
Thank you, Anna Ramsglotter-Witte. Now, Anna has worked at the Vienna Pool Filmverleih, the Vienna Human Rights Film Festival, the European Center for Constitutional and Human Rights, and the Human Rights Festival here in Berlin. And last year, she became artistic director of this very festival. So join me in welcoming to Radio Spätkauf, Anna Ramsglotter-Witte.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Welcome to the show. And also, we want to say what?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for making podcasts part of the festival.
Thanks for being here.
In general, in particular, this podcast, I think.
Thanks for being part of our podcast jury.
I think we'll jump in, like, last things first. As I arrived here the other evening, I noticed big X's over the K, and I thought this was like a protest about something I don't even know what we're against here. I thought it was just it was like someone was going by and they're like, wouldn't it be cool? It docs. What's going on? What's going on with the name?
We got a tiny little legal issue. Someone was not very happy about our name. And so we decided, instead of fighting a legal battle, which we could have, to not fight, because it doesn't make sense to spend time and money and energy on fighting, but rather making something beautiful out of it. And we were thinking and searching and thinking and searching, and then we were like, what's about an X? An X is a kiss, and we love documentaries.
Like XOXO.
Yeah, and in the world
Beautiful.
of documentaries, international docs is a very common arbitration of documentaries.
So if you're cool and you're into documentaries, it's docs.
True.
Because who has time to say documentary?
So we decided we send a kiss to those who don't like our previous name and make it into a very nice homage to the documentary film festivals out there who already use docs.
So how shall we pronounce the new name of the festival?
That's a very good question. We currently go with Doxumentale.
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 Okay, very
It could
nice.
be also Documentale, but we like the X more.
Like with a silent X?
It was a silent X.
Oh, I love that. That's
with
so...
the German Gothic Schlag thingy, but for now we are going with Doxumentale. It's really pretty new. We came up, so the legal thing kind of started slowly. We tried to find agreements. We tried to...
So someone sued you or threatened to sue you?
Not sued you. It's called in German Abmahnung.
Uh-huh.
And that came in, there was legal notice before, and then we had this long weekend before the festival, and then day before the long weekend, this Abmahnung came into it. And so we had to decide really, really quickly what to do. Like over the weekend, we had to make plans with our lawyer and getting Edward, our friends helping us with deciding on that, and then there was this spontaneous idea of an X. I think our staff came back thinking what the hell happened over the weekend? So we are reprinting. No, we are not reprinting. We are
handwriting an X over everything.
And I think it looks nice. I actually like it.
I agree. And it feels more international too.
Yeah, so maybe it was our good luck charm that someone didn't like us.
Yeah, I'm also a child of the 90s, and you would add an X to things to make them more extreme and exciting. So maybe you can think about that rebranding, Doxumentale. Yeah, you like things that are true.
I got to say, you funnily enough, are the second festival that I've heard about that has had this issue of had to change the name because somebody tried to sue them for saying that they had the name first.
True.
Yeah.
I would love to meet the other one privately, just to exchange.
Just to have a good whinging session about those lawyers who just squat out there sending off these letters, making money and misery for everybody.
I'm looking forward to it happening with my festival. I do Podfest Berlin, and I am one of like 17 podfests around the world. I know somebody must have gone through the trouble of copywriting that, and I'm just looking forward to the day I can be like, congratulations, you own Podfest.
And then it's like Poxfest. Sorry.
No, yeah, I like this. I've got my solution now. Yes.
So it's good that you're doing this now early in the festival's career because you're a very young festival. You only just started last year, right?
Yeah, it's our second edition.
Give us a spiel, your elevator pitch for people who don't know about your festival.
Do you love non-fiction storytelling? Then you're right at Doxumentale, because we do documentaries, podcasts, readings, talking. Like my social media manager is signaling me, getting me irritated. I'm sorry, but no, we do all kinds of non-fiction storytelling, which for us is so important, in particular in those times, because we need something reliable. And some like opening windows to other realities, because I think sometimes we are so much stuck in our own world and in our own worldview that it's good to look at other places. For example, when we were here and you were still testing, people in the room said they're going to watch Ouvidor tomorrow. And Ouvidor is a beautiful film about a squatted house in Sao Paulo with, at the high days, they had 120 artists in there. And then they had the chance of getting Red Bull as a sponsor, and they had huge discussions about that because they needed the money. But there is a discussion behind that. And you see those people in Sao Paulo, and suddenly you can absolutely relate if you come from the cultural sphere, because it's the same discussions I've seen all over the place in Berlin. How much sponsoring do we take? How much companies let we in our... So I think by showing those stories, we learn to relate to others and see that at the end we are all just humans.
I'm amazed that Berlin didn't have a documentary film festival before. Why didn't it? What happened? What was the space you filled?
It's not completely true. Berlin has so many festivals that I kind of lost the overview. There were various festivals with various focus on documentaries. There was no fiction festival. And the question is also, what makes a festival a festival? That's for us a big question. So we decided to really go for the non-fiction part, looking not just at documentaries, they are at the heart of our festival, but also actively looking at other non-fiction media sources.
I really like that idea. I think part of what makes a festival for me is that people do discovery. Like they find new things. Like at a music festival, you're like, I know 2 of these bands. Okay, maybe if you're young, 5 of them, and you wander to another stage. And I think that's, especially when you offer so much and so much that's great, how do you get people to not just see the hits or to wander around and try something new?
It's interesting, they do. In particular, here we are in Atelier Gardens until Sunday, so tomorrow. And we do everything here. And we have rather open doors, and we have the VR place, and people just are nosy. They peek in, and then they try VR classes for the first time. We have talks that they stumble upon while being here, and then they are waiting for a film and going into a talk maybe. So I think it's about being invitive. And the second thing is, we are trying to open the door by showing a relatively wide range of films and opening up to a wide range of topics. So maybe you are sticking with the example of Ouvidor. There's a huge Brazilian community in Berlin. So maybe they get aware of us through this one film. But then they have our festival magazine where we try to give context. They maybe have a look on our homepage. They come across an animal film.
Right.
And they're like, oh, that looks interesting. Let's go there as well.
Are the animal films, are those hot tickets here at the festival?
Yes, somehow, yes.
You say somehow. I mean, I feel like it's a genre into itself, right? On any streaming platform, it's like 20% cute animals.
I know.
As the non-fiction. Okay.
I'm aware. I have to admit, I'm not an animal documentary person.
Okay.
Personally, but I do see the appeal on it, and the two animal documentaries we have are really beautiful films.
Okay.
But it's not my documentary genre, but it doesn't have to be.
But you've got a documentary film that David Attenborough would never have thought to make, which is called Animal Pride, and it's about gay animals. Is that right?
Yes.
Fantastic.
But it's in the style of a David Attenborough film, so it's a classic documentary, but interviewing researchers who
I thought you were going to say gay animals.
who watch birds and explaining how there are also gay couples in there and how they're researching their behavior and like how that's a absolutely natural thing that is all over the world, dismantling this theory, which is absolutely crap and bullshit, sorry for that it's not natural. So it's like this sneaky approach.
And that sounds like a perfect film for a Berlin non-fiction festival right there. That's great.
How explicit is the film?
Should I spoil it now?
No. That's okay.
A bit.
Yeah.
But it's animal documentaries. I mean, you have explicit scenes. I remember, I'm from Austria. We had this Universum. Every Thursday evening there was Universum, nature or animal docs on ORF, our public broadcaster. And I mean, animal documentaries are super explicit.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
You got it? We're in Berlin. We're a Berlin-based podcast. Do you have Berlin documentaries in the program, or did you get any pitched?
Yes, we do. We had, the day before yesterday, we had the screening of the beautiful film Der Tod ist ein Arschloch, Death is an Asshole, about a Berlin-based undertaker. We are going to show it again. Eric is the undertaker is going to be there at the screening. It's a very Berlin film. We have another wonderful film by a Berlin-based filmmaker, Lorraine Blumenthal, which is called Im Osten was Neues, Changing Sides, about a person who was originally on a very far right side of our political spectrum and is now training refugees in soccer in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern. It's a beautiful documentary. It was in our professional pitching program last year, and we are so happy to see it on the big screen because she did something just outstanding there.
Wow. So from pitch last year to presented this year.
We do an impact pitch, so we support projects who want to change the world with their films, like to put it very basic and far too big. So we try to support those who are in pre-production or just finished production in developing those called impact campaigns.
Do you think Berlin has got a history of documentaries, or as a city, as a place? Is it a canvas for documentaries?
I think so. I mean, think of all the great films that come from Berlin, and I think Berliners, like my experience is very good with Berliners, expats, natives, everyone in watching documentaries. And I mean, we are here in the oldest film studio of Germany, what I learned yesterday. It was built in 1918. And here, actually, the German film industry started off. That's at least what I heard. I didn't fact check it, so I'm not a journalist.
I wouldn't. That's a big admission for the director of the.
But I mean, it's a historic place of telling stories. The news reporting, while the city was divided, there was a newsroom in there. Schlager Hit Parade was there. That's not documentaries, that's true. Circus Halligalli was filmed here. So we are at the film space presenting films, having a beautiful Berlin-based audience. We have already some screenings sold out. Changing Sides, one of the screenings is already completely sold out. So I think Berlin and documentaries work really well. Sorry for giving such a lengthy answer.
No, that's a perfect answer, and I think it's a great way to tie in why here and why now. And also, I think we have so many of the famous fiction of Berlin is so verite, and like the city is so much a part of so many of the films we see, that there's almost a documentary backdrop to a lot of the fiction that's produced here. Has it been a struggle to find support and funding for the festival?
We are in a very lucky position, and I have to say that, and we are extremely grateful. We got for the second year support of Medienbord Berlin-Brandenburg for our industry program as well as for our public program. That is really beautiful, so we can do what we do. We also got support by several embassies, like I want to mention the Dutch embassy because they were really supportive of us. And the Dutch are really big in documentaries.
Oh.
They have the biggest documentary film festival in the world. I mean, I think the box office is around 300,000 tickets, which is the size of Berlinale, with just documentaries. So there is an audience for that, and the Dutch are really good at that. The Spanish embassy was also really helpful, but also a lot of other embassies. And we have a Swiss fund who also supports us, the Storyboard Collective. And we have Transparency International as an NGO partner who is also supporting us in many, many different ways. Just before you, here sitting on our chairs, was Patrick Ellie, the founder of Global Witness, which is a huge anti-corruption investigative organization, and they bring us people like that, which is beautiful addition to the artists, to the big free thinkers and creative people we have here.
I should say we're mentioning funding because, of course, we're living through an era in Berlin when funding is being cut for all cultural activities. And so the fact that you've retained some funding is actually remarkable and worth mentioning. So congratulations on keeping on going through otherwise dark cultural times. That's great.
By the time this drops, it'll be too late for listeners to visit the festival now.
When does it drop?
Well, like in 2 days?
In 2 days, yeah?
No, our festival goes on until June 22nd. We just stop here and then we spread throughout the city into clubs, cinemas, museums, showing films
right.
there. So you can go to Tresor, Globus, watch a film about Edna O'Brien there, or to Kater Blau to watch Ovidor there.
And if you buy the festival pass online, as I did, you get a T-shirt, and you can also stream the films at home. Is that right?
Great selection of the films you can stream online until June 30th.
So
within Germany.
Cancel your Netflix, and all you need to do is just buy a festival ticket. Until the end of the month, you can enjoy fantastic documentaries presented at the festival.
Thank you
and
so
visit
much.
it all over the year. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Cybersecurity is the top concern for businesses, according to Vanta's recent State of Trust report. But whether you're a startup founder or an experienced security professional, Vanta is here to help. Businesses use Vanta to establish trust by automating compliance needs across over 35 frameworks, like ISO 27001 and SOC 2. Centralized security workflows, complete security questionnaires up to 5 times faster, and proactively manage vendor risk. Join over 9,000 global companies like Flow Health, Synesthesia, and Alica Bank, who use Vanta to manage risk and prove security in real time. Learn how to simplify trust management at vanta.com/Radio Spatekoff. That's VANTA.com/Radio Spatekoff. Joel, let's talk about some bicycles.
Let's talk about bicycles. I want to talk about bicycles because, to me, bicycles tell the story of Berlin and the changing trends about Berlin. So when I first moved to Berlin, the way you got a bicycle is you went to Maybach-Ufer in Kreuzberg, and there was some guy there selling you a second-hand bike, second-hand, including the lock, which was a bit weird. So I bought myself, I think, 2 second-hand bikes there.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure I saw my second-hand bike there on the same bridge a few weeks later.
You paid like under 100, right?
Oh, like $20.
Yeah. I remember when used bikes went over the €100 threshold, and I was like, That's it. The city is over.
Yep.
But the city has ended so many times.
And now it has changed. Okay, so then the next change that happened that we could see on the streets of Berlin through the bicycles was the phase of the hot money, the VC investors who came to town and changed the city. And they brought with them all those colorful bicycles that we had on the streets. Do you remember 2017 when there were 7 different companies offering all those different shared bike arrangements? All
Donkey bike.
Ofo, O-Bike, Mobike. There were just so many.
Each with their own color code as though they were a German political party.
That's it, yeah. And they came and went, but the fancy electric bikes stuck around, and they're still here. They're to me symbolizing this new class of Berliner that has come in and changed the city itself. Anyway, bicycles are again telling us another part of the story, and that is that the only publicly funded shared bike system which used to exist is going to cease to exist, and that is called Nextbike. So Nextbike has, since 2017, had a contract from the city government to offer low-cost subsidized shared bike system. You don't pay very much for it. It costs 10 euros a month, and if you pay that, you can use the bikes practically for free every half hour. But their contract, which started in 2017, is not being renewed by the city government. The reason they're giving is that they say that Berlin is broke. So the company, Nextbike, was receiving 1.5 million euros a year from the city-state. And for that, it was obliged to provide 6,500 bikes and have more than half of them outside of the Ringbahn, which is important.
Wow.
And the service has been increasingly popular. It's doubled its use annually, and it reached 4 million rides last year. And I calculated that out. That means each ride costs the taxpayer 35 cents.
And it has the most loyal fan base of any single-use share. Like most people, if you see someone on like a Voi or like a Volt, whatever, they're like, I need to get somewhere, I'll use this. Nextbike riders love Nextbike, in my experience.
I am an Nextbike rider, and I can say I do love it. At first, I thought it was a little bit heavy, clunky, they're hard to use, but then I realized that I was basically getting a workout for free and burning extra calories on the way, so that's an advantage. And I also, because they are a bit harder to ride, but that's kind of the beauty of them. They do work pretty much every time. I mean, usually the lock, you have to open it twice because it doesn't go first time. But I'm pretty sure I'm the fastest Nextbike rider in Berlin, Dan.
Whoa!
I've gotten into little street races with other Nextbike riders in the bike lanes, and and I'm pretty sure that Nextbike could quantify that for me, because when you think about it, they've got data on all the rides. At the end of my ride, it tells me how long I took. And they know how far I went. So
what you're pitching right now is that we gamify Nextbikes, make an app where you can get your average speed, have little races, you can play like Pac-Man, but you're the ghost, or I think that's what you're saying, right? This is a startup pitch.
Actually, all I want to do is get Nextbike to get an AI agent to crunch their data and to confirm that I am in fact the fastest Nextbike rider, which is totally possible. They have the data. Nextbike, please do it. So you know what I did? I'm a journalist, so I wrote them an email and asked them if they could do this for me. Yeah. They didn't reply. Apparently, they've got other concerns, like the fact that they've just lost 1.5 million euros in funding a year, and they are no longer the official shared bike system of Berlin. So why is this happening? Why has the funding been cut? Well, it's because the CDU is in charge in Berlin, and the CDU loves cars and they hate bikes. And also because the CDU says that Berlin is broke. Berlin has been facing a financial crisis for the last year, and that is due to having less tax income than they spend. So you have less money that comes in and goes out. Apparently you have to do something about it. And that happened because Germany went through 2 years of recession, and that happened because Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine, and then Germany had to stop using Russian gas, which caused a recession, which caused tax receipts to drop, which caused Berlin to lose money, and which caused all the spending plans to go awry. So the city government could have taken out some loans, but the CDU hates debt, so they didn't do that, even though sometimes debt makes economic sense. And they also could have taxed the rich people more, but they didn't do that because the CDU doesn't like doing that either. So instead, they've slashed the annual budget of the city by 3 billion euros, which is around 7.5% of last year's budget. And this includes the wider transport budget, which was cut by 660 million. So that means no new electric buses, no new tramline extensions, among other things. The education budget got cut by 370 million, so that's less money for schools and universities. And the culture budget, of course, got cut by 130 million, so that's less money for theatres, festivals, galleries and events. So basically from schools to parks to pools, right across the city, every social service is suffering. And in comparison, really, the loss of cheap shared bikes seems a little bit insignificant. But it does at least symbolise something to me. So Nextbike is not going to disappear completely. They're going to keep trying to operate as a private-only company, but we've seen how that works. 7 different private companies existed in 2017, and this is, I think, the only one that's standing, or there might be one other. The only other one that is also still here is Bike from Deutsche Bahn. And Bike is subsidized by Deutsche Bahn, so that is effectively also public subsidized. So it says something that these bike companies can't sustainably keep operating without some kind of public financing of some level. So that's an argument for why we need them. The other argument for why we need them is because all those people outside the Ringbahn, there's no commercial service provider that's going to bother putting bikes outside the Ringbahn because they're just not profitable. So you kind of need a government subsidy to say, hey, go put bikes out there so people who don't live in the inner city can also use them.
Yeah, and that was last mile, which is the phrase, but by then it's the last 5 miles is like really critical infrastructure.
That's right. So smaller services, the prices will go up, the service area will shrink. Maybe our listeners won't notice because I'm assuming that our listeners were probably living in the inner city places where they already get used.
You'd be wrong,
but
Joel.
You never know. On other biking news, so this is about some bikes that, while Nextbike is getting more invisible, there are some bikes that are getting far more audible. So I'm sure you have heard the constant high-pitched beeping that is going around the city at the moment, followed by the sight of an overweight child joyfully riding along an electric bike. So the company Lime Bikes rolled out a new model of its bicycles recently, and these ones apparently are very easy to hack. All you have to do is lift up the back wheel and give it a good running start, and then you could ride the bike for free, which lots and lots of Berlin kids have been doing.
Berlin kids of all different BMIs, but they're all beautiful and wonderful.
They are, and they all need to be riding more bikes, which I think is fantastic. So earlier models of the Lime bikes, they had a physical lock. So for kids to hack them, they actually had to break the lock.
Right.
So I'm guessing
like a
that
Dutch-style lock that shoved through.
Yeah, so you would hear them clacking as they rode along the street. But they're not clacking anymore, they're just beeping. And I'm guessing Lime Bike at some point just thought, we'll cut our losses. If they're going to hack our bikes, at least they won't do physical damage to the bike. So let's just get rid of that lock. You can ride them basically for free. They'll beep. And they're very hard to ride. I don't know if you've tried an electric bike without the motor running, but they're not easy. And so I say, good on you fat little kids, because you are burning energy.
These are innocent children.
Okay, you're right. They're not all overweight. So I actually have a theory about this, which I think that Lime Bike doesn't actually care what's going on with their bikes because this is some kind of underground advertising. Like they're getting these kids hooked on the bike so that later on they'll become customers.
They beep, they get attention, then people think, I should ride that bike.
Or these kids will become loyal customers later. They'll get used to it and they'll want to actually
it's sort of like the Netflix model where
or the Tommy Hilfiger model where apparently they used to let kids shoplift out their clothes out of their shops so that they would be cool on the streets, I
don't think that's true.
I read it in a marketing history book. I don't know if it's true. Anyway, so I actually did ask Lime Bikes if this is a marketing ploy.
Yeah.
And they said they did not confirm or deny.
Wait, they replied though?
They did.
Oh my God. You're shooting 50% this episode. That's pretty good.
Yeah. So they didn't confirm or deny whether they're doing some secret underground marketing ploy. But what they did say is Lime Bike is aware of the issue and it takes vandalism very seriously and is working with the Berlin authorities to hold vandals to account. Which I thought was a bit serious, but over the top. I mean, they're just chubby little kids. Let them go.
I would say the main authority responsible for policing this is dirty looks, which doesn't work on teenage boys or preteen boys. Like every time you see one of these people, then you look at someone going like, whoa, and I'm like, you're mad at them for what? Stealing miles of tire use? It's not even like there's nothing to even, they're going to give it back. And I will say this about what they have done a fantastic job with. If you want to talk about marketing, the marketing that they've succeeded in is letting everyone know these bikes are free. And so yesterday I was waiting for the bus and I hear the beeping coming, and I look, and it was like a middle-aged dude. He was chubby, you'll be happy to know, Joel, riding that bike for free, beeping along. And I was just like, at some point, this becomes just like a universal, like all Berliners will ride these for free. And then eventually they'll disappear and people will be like, remember when we used to hear that beeping? You know, just like one of those things that like is objectively worse, yet we long for in our past.
And that will have been the summer of 2025. Maybe that will become the new kind of public shared biking system by default. You know, we lose one, we gain another.
Our next guest is a Swedish activist, writer, and social entrepreneur who lives here in Berlin. In 2012, she founded Give Something Back to Berlin, aka GSBTB, an NGO dedicated to fostering community and fighting back against xenophobia. She joins us today on Radio Spake-Off to tell us about her newest project, Stories from the Beauty Parlor. Please, a warm welcome for Anna-Maria Olsen.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a tremendous pleasure, and I've really enjoyed listening to the podcast.
We actually have a couple of men listening. I was very surprised that the beauty doesn't scare people off. I think like 1/3 of all the listeners are men.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't ban us from a place, we'll just show up. You can't keep us out. That's how we maintain the patriarchy. You want to tell for the listeners who want maybe jump in at like the most recent episode?
Yeah, so the latest episode, we went to Morocco. We got bathed, scrubbed, and pampered in hammams in the like breathtaking Atlas Mountains, as well as the very glitzy capital of Rabat. And the episode ended up being like an odyssey through a lot of topics that it turns out that, I mean, women in Morocco, we got to learn that they go to the hammam at least once per week. It's like a ritual. It's community, and you spend a couple of hours, and it is by no means only about beauty. It's about discussing what's going on in the community, gossiping, creating bonds, and just talking about everything that's going on in the country.
And that, of course, is the reason that you chose beauty parlors as a subject material, a subject matter, a place, because they are places that reveal much more about the societies they're in than just about the beauty industry. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. Like, it's a fascinating prism that you can tell, like, much bigger stories about the situation for women globally. So, yeah, the last episode we went to Morocco, right? Before that, we went to Georgia, and before that, we were in Kosovo. And the topics that comes up and that the women and queer communities are processing in these parlors, there's like extremely diverse. So, in Kosovo, it was about like, it's a post-conflict, post-war country. It was about outward migration. It was in Georgia, obviously, they're going through this this very difficult political moment with the interference of Russia. So it was a lot of like, also like post-Soviet history coming up there. And then in Morocco, it was about, Ramadan and spirituality and financial empowerment through argan oil. So, it really depends where you go. You get very singular stories, but it's also always sort of the same problems and challenges of patriarchy are popping up in like every place. So, it's... It is a very fascinating way of exploring. We're at a documentary film festival, right? Yeah. And it's a great way of also just learning about cultures and traditions and from all over the globe.
Each podcast is this nice, unique little journey into this place, and it's part sort of documentary, part interview. And I guess to some extent, do you get a chance to kind of be a fly in the wall and hear the conversations that would be happening if there wasn't someone there recording?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's also why I choose. You mentioned that a little bit earlier in your talk, right? Like, nowadays everything needs to be like video, like documentary. It's like there is something very powerful in only audio, because not everyone wants to be. I mean, our whole lives are so polluted with pictures and images, anyways, right? And on social media, and especially for a lot of women and people from vulnerable communities, not everybody wants to, first of all, like have their face shown.
Or in the hammam, the rest of them.
Yeah, I mean, I could not have made this like going into hammam. Like, it's literally about being naked together, right?
Yeah.
So, the beauty parlor space is also kind of taking out those very intimate conversations, and that can only happen through audio.
So like you said, you've been to these tattoo parlors and hammams and all across all of these different locations. Is there anything that's sort of on your like bucket list, like a location, a room that you want to journey into?
No, I think like they're all stories are so different, and I think you find fascinating stuff wherever you go. Like, it could be the most humble, small. We just did an interview with a woman from the Syrian-Turkish border, and she ended up telling this story about how it is, because the earthquake, the big earthquake
right.
in Turkey and Syria kind of ruined her whole hometown, and now this beauty salon is like a small container, and it's her telling that story about that small container. It was like everyone in there just gets so happy. It's like a small place of happiness and normality, despite it's just being like this humble container. So no, I have no kind of beauty parlor bucket list. I think you will find fascinating stories everywhere you go.
What about here in Berlin, since that's where we're based?
Yeah, we're actually our next, one of our next episodes will be a Berlin-Neukölln episode. So there's a lot to explore here. One of the beauty parlors we are wanting to put a spotlight on here is a Gambian hairdresser who has like this insane life story. Like, she was an activist back in Gambia, came here, worked in this beauty parlor for over 30 years. And I'm not gonna, like, you have to listen to the episode.
Okay.
But
it's okay to tease without spoiling, yeah.
Yeah, but it's also like, it's kind of like Zeitgeschichte, because she's been in Berlin, she's been in Neukölln for 30 years. Like, so much have happened. And she's seen it all, see Berlin going through all of these changes, and she's going into the retirement now.
Okay.
So it's also like a small bit of like oral history. And women's oral history, or women's history, as we know, are very often underreported. And and I love podcasts, but it's, very often it's like two male academics, some American dude that is like, no, but I'm the head doctor professor in like American inequality. Like, I do that. I love this nerdy stuff.
Right.
But this is like putting a spotlight on another type of people and another type of experts.
Neither of us are professors, so I guess we're off that list. So just
I'm not even that smart.
So the premise is wonderful. I'm guessing though that not all beauty parlors are equal, because I assume there could be some beauty parlors that are places of exploitation as well.
Absolutely, and that's also part of the what I said in the beginning, that there's so many topics to explore in this. I mean, human trafficking is a huge thing. Like, a lot of in a lot of nail salons, there have been cases of people being trafficked to work there. but also exploitation of labor. I mean, the fight for like minimum wage, or like the hiring of the minimum wage was like a huge thing for like hairdressers. So particularly like we were talking about the German and Berlin context. So definitely, but we also have to remember that this sector and working in the beauty sector globally is like a huge source of financial empowerment for women, and especially for women from what we consider more like conservative cultures, because it's like you are allowed to work if it's among only other women, for instance, or maybe you might only feel safe if you're working with other women. But that's all. I'm seeing this podcast, going on for 10 years, so we will have time to explore 100 billion different angles of this.
I mean, the hairdressers were sort of the original gig workers in a way to one of the first industries where it was normal to like get around minimum wage by renting your chair or something like that. And that's sort of like a topic as now I guess that men have to do that job. It becomes, or do jobs under those conditions, it becomes an issue. One of the other things, I mean, there seems like there's a lot of dichotomies within this world. Beauty standards being something that maybe some people, not to be a straw man, but people don't necessarily associate the beauty parlor as a place for like feminist activism.
No, but I think it's because you are focusing on the sort of only the pampering side of it. Of course, there is that side also. It's about also human dignity. I come from I work with refugees and migrants the last 10 years, and actually the first two things that pop up in refugee camps are the mini supermarket and hairdressers. Like, it is about dignity. It's about preserving culture. It's about feeling good about yourself. But of course, it's not like I love the beauty industry, in this it's very capitalist form, right? But in our next stage, this is not only about kind of the sharing of these stories in these parlors.
Because the podcast is at the center of, you're doing a lot more beyond the podcast as well.
So the idea is, and you have already talked about it here at the podcast, right? Like the insane funding cuts that are, taking place in all over Germany, all over in Berlin, but also globally. All foreign aids funds are cut, U.S. aid, and even before this hell broke loose with all the funding cuts, only 2% of all global funds goes to projects that support women and queer community. It's pathetic. We're 50% of the population, and we get 2% of all the funds, right? So our idea is to, through this podcast and the themes and the topics that come up in these parlors, the communities will tell us, these and these organizations and NGOs are doing a great job kind of tackling these issues. And we are going to go and fundraise for these organizations and these causes from the beauty industry, because they make so much money, and they're making the money out of us, and women's rights, and as a lot of minority rights, queer rights, they're under attack all over the world at the moment, and the budgets are cut. So it's kind of pragmatic. We're so now it's your time to step up and chip in with some money, because you make the money from us. So that's
that
next
sounds
step.
Awesome. holding L'Oreal accountable, through these narratives. I think that's a wonderful vision.
So you have gone from giving something back to Berlin to giving something back to women globally. That's a pretty big jump. That's very impressive. Good work.
Yeah, I mean, we're very early. We just launched like 3 months ago and only did 3 episodes so far. But I stayed with my previous founded organization for over 10 years, so I know that like change doesn't happen overnight, and building things takes a long time. But that's also why it's so important to also like center joy, center community, and center care, because the fight that we have, that is, we need to tackle, like God knows how long this horrific political situation is going to go on, but we're in for a long, like, yeah, it's a marathon and not a sprint. So yeah, we also need to center self-care, but make it community care, like, and kind of get rid of this ridiculous, capitalist version of this, whatever self-care ended up being.
Right. Right. Self-care is something for the wealthy. Yeah. I think fundamentally what you said earlier, just having these spaces in and of themselves and celebrating them and acknowledging that they're an important part of the cultures of our city, states, and world, I think is also really, because one could, like, you see a neighborhood go through changes, and that's one of the businesses that you see disappear in gentrification or pop up first as a neighborhood changes. And I think documenting and allowing those, and just show, you do a great job of showing how beautiful those cultures are. I think it's really great.
But I think these type of spaces also have another culture's significance in other countries.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think that every beauty parlor in Germany is like this amazing, vibrant cultural hub where, people are just therapizing each other. Like, absolutely not. But like in so many cultures and so many countries, like your hairdresser is like almost like a part of your family. And people go to the hairdresser. It's like almost like instead of going to therapy. And there's even like programs where hairdressers and beauticians are trained in psychology, or like in informing about women's rights, about here you go, if you're exposed to, domestic violence or stuff like that, because they know that they've play such an important role in their communities. So no, I don't think every local 10 euro hairdresser in Berlin has that role, but it has much, globally, much more so.
Amazing topic. Can't wait to listen. Should we do some plugs? Where can people find out more?
We are on Spotify. It's the podcast. It's called Stories from Beauty Parlor. You can also follow us on social media. We also share a lot of global feminist stories daily, and it will also be in the show notes, right?
Yes, we'll put the link in there at the website, beautyparlorstories.org.
So thank you very much, Anna-Marie Olsen from the podcast Stories from the Beauty Parlor.
Thanks for having me.
Radio Speckau.
Listeners who donate and support the show through subscriptions and Steady or your great one-time donations, it is really amazing that you do that. Also, anyone who's shared the listening to this show to friends or family or coworkers or strangers on the bus, that word of mouth is really important, as are reviews and ratings on whichever app you're streaming it on.
Now, Dan, I've got to say, because I've been away, but I've been listening from afar, you have been so busy pumping out so many side projects and spin-offs and various formats through the podcast. And you've got another one coming up this week, right?
Yes. Last year, we partnered with Europäische Academy Berlin to do a little mini-series on basically the lived world, urban planning, sharing spaces in our cities. This Friday, June 20th, we're going to start our second season of that collaboration. And this year, I really wanted to focus on culture. And this Friday, we'll be talking about, can we support subcultures? The guests were between my networks of weirdos and the EAB's network of professionals and people who respond to official sounding emails. We've got just so many amazing guests and perspectives that we're going to go through. So starting with subcultures and going all the way through the cultures of the future.
Have you got someone from that subculture that they dress up as furry animals and hang out at the hotel in Neukölln once a year?
I do have the editor-in-chief of Siegessäule, which I think has done some coverage of the furry movement. But yeah, we try and look at a lot of different perspectives from people who are doing studies on what the financial situation of independent artists, to actual independent artists, to also the people who run the clubs that support small subcultures and things that don't fit in with mainstream funding. To finish up the show with our credits, our theme music was created by the band Dux. Today's hosts were Joel Dory and myself, Daniel Stern. You can find us at radiospakeoff.com or on socials. We're at Radio Spakeoff, all one word. Technical support provided by Podfest Berlin, Berlin's podcast festival. Thank you again to Doxumentale for hosting us today, and to our lovely audience. Give you guys a round of applause for yourselves. Thanks, Joel.
Thank you, guys. Talk to you all soon. Bye.
Spakeoff. Berlin News in English.